It's wild out there right now. Learning agility. It's like everyone's throwing that phrase around, but it's not just talk, it's everything.
It really is. It's like the rules of the game changed overnight, and now we're all scrambling to keep up.
Right. AI writing code,
Mhm.
the gig economy blowing up. It's a lot to wrap your head around.
It is, and that's precisely why we're diving into this today. Chapter 15 of Applied Psychology in Talent Management.
Okay, getting right into it. I like it. So we're talking training and development, but with a 2024 spin.
Exactly. Because the old playbook, it's out the window. We're going deep on why your workforce, your people, they're the ultimate competitive edge.
Music to my ears.
Mm-hmm.
I always say invest in your people first. So much of the conversation is about attracting talent, but what about keeping them engaged?
100%. And not just keeping them, but helping them grow, did you know? A full 76% of employees are more likely to stay put if a company offers continuous training.
Wow, 76%. That's huge. People want to feel that upward trajectory, right?
Absolutely, that feeling of constantly evolving, learning new things. Who wants to feel stagnant? It's human nature to crave that growth.
And let's be real, technology's throwing fuel on the fire.
Oh, without a doubt, AI, mobile computing. It's not just changing what we do, but how we do it.
Companies need to adapt, and fast, equipping their teams with the right skills to thrive in this new landscape.
It's not even a question anymore. Training isn't a perk, it's essential. If you're not investing in your people, you're already falling behind.
So let's break it down. What sets the companies with killer training programs apart?
Mm.
What are they doing differently?
Our source lays out four main things, and it boils down to this. Learning, it has to be in the company's DNA. It's got to be part of the culture. And that starts at the top.
Love that. Leadership sets the tone, right?
100%. Top management has to walk the walk. It can't just be lip service. They need to be visibly, vocally, all in on training and development.
It's like that saying, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Mhm.
Even with the best intentions, if learning isn't valued, it's not going to stick.
You got it. The second thing, training needs to be strategic, not just random workshops or hoping for the best. It's got to be directly tied to those big, hairy, audacious business goals.
No more throwing spaghetti at the wall. We need laser focus.
Exactly. And the third thing, feedback. Constant feedback. Not just a survey at the end, but a continuous loop of listening, adapting, and refining.
Always be iterating. It's not about being perfect out of the gate. It's about that willingness to constantly improve.
Exactly. And last but not least, and this might seem obvious, but you got to put your money where your mouth is. Invest the
You
resources.
get what you give, right? You can't skimp on training and expect top-tier results.
No way. You need to dedicate the time, the money, the tools. Make it a priority and not an afterthought.
Couldn't agree more. But even with all the right pieces in place, there's one crucial factor that can make or break even the best training program: the individual.
Ah, yes. We're finally getting to the human element. And this is where it gets really interesting.
Right. We all know people learn differently. But our source dives into this concept of trainability. Tell me more. What is that exactly?
So trainability, think of it like someone's capacity to learn. It's their ability to take in new information and actually turn it into skills they can use.
Okay, so it's not just about being smart. It's about being able to apply that knowledge.
Exactly. You can have the sharpest mind in the room, but if they're not motivated to learn, the training's not going to stick. Motivation is key.
It's like that fire in your belly. I've
Yeah.
seen it firsthand. You can give someone all the tools in the world, but it's that inner drive that makes all the difference.
Absolutely. But it's not just up to the individual, right? The training itself has to be engaging, relevant, and applicable to their day-to-day work. Nobody wants to waste their time on something that feels pointless.
And that's where needs assessment comes into play, figuring out exactly what skills are needed, for whom, and how to deliver it effectively.
You got it. It's about being strategic, not just throwing stuff at the wall and hoping something sticks. We need to be precise.
No more hit or miss training. So how do we do it right? What does a proper needs assessment look like?
Well, our source actually lays out a really comprehensive model, and it starts big picture with the external environment. We're talking about things like union regulations, the economy as a whole, even relevant laws.
Wow. Okay. So it's about understanding the bigger context, not just what's happening within the company walls.
Exactly. We need to look at the whole playing field. And then we can zoom in, focusing on the organization itself. What are the company's goals? What resources do they have? Are they being used effectively?
It's about aligning training with the overall strategy.
You got it. And remember how we talked about the importance of the individual? Well, that's where demographic analysis comes in. Different groups of people might need different approaches to training.
Right, like your remote workers versus your in-office teams are going to have different needs.
Exactly. Or think about different generations in the workplace. A one-size-fits-all approach just won't cut it.
Makes sense. Everyone learns differently.
And we can't forget about the operational side of things either. This is where we roll up our sleeves and really dissect how work gets done. What are the actual processes involved in each role? What are the performance standards?
It's about connecting the dots, understanding how all those individual roles fit together within the bigger picture.
Exactly. And finally, we zoom in on the individual. What specific skills, knowledge, and attitudes does this person need to excel in their role? What are their strengths and where are their opportunities for growth?
I love that you're highlighting both strengths and weaknesses. It's not just about fixing problems. It's about unlocking potential.
Beautifully said. And once you've gone through that in-depth needs assessment, then you can start crafting those crystal clear training objectives.
And I'm sensing it's not enough to just say, we want our employees to be better at customer service. We need to get granular, right?
You're reading my mind. We need to define success in a way that's measurable and actionable. Our source gave a great example about training civil engineering students. It's not enough to say, learn about building on-ramps. That's way too vague.
Yeah, what does that even mean?
Exactly. We need specifics. So a better objective would be something like,
Oh, let me try. How about after completing this training, the student will be able to accurately list all 10 steps involved in building a highway on-ramp in the correct order and explain the specific safety standards for each step.
now you're talking. That's clear, it's actionable, and it gives you something concrete to measure.
It's like that old saying, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time.
Ah,
Without well-defined objectives, you're just shooting in the dark.
too true. And speaking of hitting the mark, let's talk about creating that optimal learning environment, because even with the best training objectives in the world, if the environment itself is boring or disengaging, people are going to zone out. We've all been there.
Oh, tell me about it. Death by PowerPoint is real. So what makes for a truly engaging and effective learning experience? What are those magic ingredients?
You want people to walk away with those aha moments, those golden nuggets of knowledge that stick with them.
Absolutely. And it's not just about memorizing facts. It's about understanding how to apply them in the real world.
You got it.
Right.
And our source material outlines 7 key features that contribute to a truly engaging and effective learning environment.
Okay, let's dive in. What's number 1?
First and foremost, trainees need to understand the why. Why are they here? What are the goals? What's expected of them?
Right, because nobody wants to feel like they're just going through the motions. People are more likely to engage if they see the bigger picture.
Exactly. And the content itself can't just be some dry theoretical stuff. It needs to be meaningful and relevant to their day-to-day reality. We need to show them the so what.
Right. Connect those dots between theory and practice. Help them visualize how those new skills will actually translate into tangible results in their work.
Exactly. And it's not just about the content, it's also about how it's delivered. We need that logical flow of information. It's got to be well organized and easy to digest.
Like a well-written book. You get pulled in, you're engaged, and before you know it, you've learned so much without even realizing it.
Perfect analogy. And just like a good book has twists and turns, a good training program needs those hands-on elements. Role-playing, simulations, group exercises. Get people actively involved.
Oh, I'm all about that. I'm a hands-on learner myself. Actually doing the thing is so much more powerful than just hearing about it.
100%.
Yeah.
And speaking of feedback, regular, specific, and actionable feedback is crucial for continuous improvement. And it's not just about pointing out areas for improvement, it's also about celebrating those aha moments.
Yes, feedback is a gift. And it's even more valuable when it's coming from multiple perspectives. Peers, supervisors, mentors.
Absolutely. The more diverse those perspectives, the richer the learning experience. And don't underestimate the power of collaboration. Create those opportunities for trainees to connect, to bounce ideas around, to learn from each other.
Oh, those water cooler moments are where the magic happens. It's those informal exchanges where you often have the biggest breakthroughs.
Totally. And lastly, this might seem obvious, but smooth coordination and logistics are key. Nobody wants to show up for a training and have it be a chaotic mess.
Ugh, the worst. It's like showing up for a cooking class and finding out there are no ovens. Talk about a buzzkill.
Exactly. It's about setting the stage for a positive, productive, and enjoyable learning experience. Now, all of this we've been talking about, it takes on a whole new dimension when we start talking about team training.
Ooh, team training. Okay, now we're getting to the good stuff. Because let's be real, so much of what we do in the workplace relies on effective teamwork.
Couldn't agree more. And yet, so many organizations drop the ball here. They focus solely on training individuals, missing out on this huge opportunity to elevate team performance.
It's like trying to win a championship by only training individual players but never letting them practice as a team. What's the point?
Right. It makes no sense. So, how do we unlock the power of team training? Well, remember how we talked about the importance of needs assessment? It's even more critical when it comes to teams. We need to understand the specific skills and knowledge that are essential for a team to function at its absolute best.
Okay, so we're not just talking about individual expertise, but about how those individual strengths mesh together within a team setting.
Exactly. And that leads us to our next step, establishing those crystal clear objectives. But here's the twist with team training. These objectives need to address both task work and teamwork skills.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break that down for me, task work versus teamwork.
Sure, task work skills are those specific to the job itself. They're the what of getting things done, like the technical skills needed to code a website or design a marketing campaign.
Got it. So those hard skills, the specialized knowledge.
Exactly. Teamwork skills, on the other hand, are all about the how. They're those interpersonal skills that determine how effectively people collaborate, how they navigate the complexities of working together.
So it's the difference between a group of individually talented people and a high-performing team that operates like a well-oiled machine.
You nailed it. Clear communication, adaptability, sound decision-making, even how conflicts are addressed, those are all teamwork skills.
Okay, so we know teamwork is essential, we know what skills to focus on, but how do we actually cultivate those skills in a training environment? How do we take those concepts and turn them into real-world behaviors?
The key is to create exercises that simulate real-life team challenges. Think role-playing, simulations, group problem-solving activities, anything that gets people thinking on their feet and working collaboratively under pressure.
I love it. It's like designing escape rooms for the workplace.
Exactly. And just as important as the exercises themselves is the debriefing afterward. That's where the real learning happens. Teams can reflect on what worked well, what could have been done differently, and how they can apply those lessons moving forward.
It's like hitting the pause button in the middle of a game, analyzing the plays, and strategizing for the next quarter.
Exactly. And just as we measure individual performance, we need to measure team performance too.
Right, because if you're not measuring it, how do you know if it's working? So what are some of the key metrics we should be tracking when it comes to teams?
Our source material highlighted a few important ones: team efficacy, shared knowledge structures, and shared mental models.
Okay, those sound pretty complex. Can you break those down for us?
Sure. Team efficacy is essentially a team's shared belief in their ability to achieve their goals. It's that we've got this attitude that's so crucial for success.
It's like the team spirit, that
Yeah.
feeling of confidence and trust that they can accomplish anything they set their minds to.
Exactly. Shared knowledge structures refer to that common understanding and language that teams develop over time. It's about getting everyone on the same page.
So like a shared vocabulary, a shorthand that allows them to communicate more effectively and efficiently.
You got it. And finally, shared mental models. These are those underlying assumptions, beliefs, and values that shape how a team approaches their work. It's that unspoken understanding of how things are done, how decisions are made.
So it's not just about what they know, but how they think and how they operate as a cohesive unit.
Precisely. When a team has aligned mental models, their communication flows, their decision-making is sharp, and they're able to achieve remarkable results.
This has been incredibly insightful. But I have to ask, even with the most brilliantly designed training programs, how do we bridge that gap between the classroom and the real world? How do we ensure that people retain what they've learned and apply it on the job?
Ugh, the million-dollar question. Transfer of training. It's the holy grail and often the biggest stumbling block. Even with the most engaging and well-designed training, sometimes those skills and knowledge just don't seem to stick once people are back in the real world.
Right. And I imagine that disconnect leads to a lot of wasted time, money, and effort.
It does. So how do we bridge that gap? How do we make sure that investment in training translates into tangible results? Well, there are a few proven strategies that can significantly boost knowledge retention and application.
Don't leave us hanging. Give us the secrets.
One of the most effective strategies is goal setting. And not just any goals. We're talking about guiding trainees to set clear, specific, measurable targets. And those goals need to be relevant to their work and have a defined time frame.
Right. Without that clarity, it's easy to get sidetracked or lose motivation. Goals act as that compass, keeping everyone moving in the right direction.
Exactly. And remember, the SMART framework, those goals should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Love that framework. Takes the guesswork out of it. What other strategies can we use?
Another powerful one is behavior modeling, the idea of show, don't tell. Instead of just talking about desired behaviors, let trainees actually see those behaviors in action.
Oh, I love that. It's like instead of just lecturing someone on how to give a killer presentation, you show them a video of Steve Jobs captivating an audience.
You got it. Or imagine you're training someone on how to handle a difficult customer service call. Instead of just talking about it, let them listen to a recording of a seasoned pro flawlessly navigating a tricky situation.
And then, to take it a step further, have them role play and practice those skills in a safe environment.
Exactly. Give them that opportunity to embody the behavior, to get comfortable with it. Speaking of practice, our source also talked about overlearning, which I've always found fascinating.
Yes. Tell me more about that. Overlearning. It sounds intense.
It can be, but in a good way. It's about practicing a skill or behavior so much that it becomes almost second nature.
It's like that quote, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect.
You got it. And the beauty of overlearning is that it equips people to perform those crucial skills even under pressure. Think about a pilot or a surgeon. They don't have the luxury of freezing up in the middle of a critical situation. Their training, their overlearning, can literally be the difference between life and death.
Wow, that's a powerful example. So we've talked about goal setting, behavior modeling, practice. What other tools do we have in our arsenal to make learning stick?
We can't forget about the power of feedback. Consistent, specific, and actionable feedback is essential for continuous improvement. And remember, feedback isn't just about highlighting areas for improvement. It's also about acknowledging what people are doing well and encouraging them to keep growing.
Absolutely. It's about fostering that growth mindset where feedback is seen as a gift, not a criticism. It's about creating that environment where people feel safe to experiment, to make mistakes, and to learn from those mistakes without fear of judgment.
100%. It's about shifting the mindset from training is something we have to do to learning is something we get to do.
Yes, it's about embracing that growth mindset. Speaking of growth, this deep dive has really driven home the importance of weaving learning into the very fabric of an organization. It's not just a one-time event. It needs to be an ongoing process.
Absolutely. It's not enough to simply offer training programs. We need to create a culture where learning is celebrated, where it's integrated into the day-to-day.
It's like that old saying, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. But in this case, it's more like teach a team to fish and they'll feed the whole organization for years to come.
I love that. It highlights something really important. When we invest in training and development, we're not just investing in individual employees, we're investing in the future of our organizations.
So true. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one big takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with? If they only remember one thing from this conversation, what would it be?
Remember that training is not a one-time event. It's a journey, a continuous process of growth and adaptation. And in today's world, that commitment to continuous learning is the key to not just surviving, but thriving.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's like that quote, the only constant is change. And the more we can embrace that change, the more we can empower our teams to not only navigate it successfully, but to leverage it for growth and innovation.
Imagine the possibilities if your organization fully embraced these training principles. What kind of impact could you have on your team, on your customers, on your entire industry?
Now that's a thought-provoking question to leave our listeners with. As always, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.